so we'll get started then. So good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Lorna, and I work for the London School of Childcare Studies. And I'm really excited this morning that I've got the chance to have a chat with Wendy. So I will let Wendy explain to you exactly what she does. But when I got to read Wendy's brief, all I can say is she's quite inspirational, because not only has she provided outstanding childcare throughout her career, she's also taken on new challenges as she's gone along, and she's made sure that her career is actually fitting around her and her lifestyle as well, which I think is something all of us could definitely strive to achieve. So good morning, Wendy.
Good morning, Lorna.
And thank you for joining us. So Wendy, I did say I would let you, because you're the lady who's lived it all. Can you briefly just share with us and our audience your career story, because it really is quite inspirational?
Okay, so I think I'll just give you some background information briefly, so you can see the journey that I've been on. I come from Somerset, and I left school at 15 and went straight into work. I didn't go on to further education, and I had my children quite young, and my youngest was a chronic asthmatic, so I didn't want to go back to work. So I wanted something that I could do from home, bring in an income, and to care for him. So I went into the childminding, and as he got older, I done the preschool learning allowance course, and then I went to sort of work alongside him in nursery. My husband went to university when he was 26 and trained as a social worker, and we then moved to London nearly 29 years ago now, which is an incredible time. It's gone so quickly. And I continued childminding because it fitted in perfectly, so I could settle my children in London. My children have all left home, went to university and flown the nest and moved abroad. And I still carried on childminding because I love it so much. It gives me great joy and passion, and it's something I'm really good at, and I love working with the parents and the children. I did my studies in segments, so I've sort of gone up the scale with all my studies, which have all gone towards helping me gain those outstanding qualifications. I found the London School of Childcare Studies in lockdown, and I did some of their courses, and then I saw the Sleep Practitioners course, which I did, and I really like the format that you use there, so I found that really helped my confidence. So I was really pleased to have done that.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. Thank you, Wendy. So you've kind of told us a little bit there, but we were going to ask you about the whys to sort of your career changes as you've gone along, because we've heard you started off as a childminder, then you studied while also still working as a childminder, which is quite a big thing. And then you've obviously now moved on to your sleep consultancy. So the whys behind changing and evolving like that.
Before lockdown in the summer of 2019, my husband and I took a career break, and we went travelling around Southeast Asia for 5 months. Wow. Our older son and younger son lived over there, so we visited them while we were travelling around. And we came back home, and I started childminding again. And then we had COVID, so I re-evaluated my work-life balance to look for a new challenge and to do something stimulating and meaningful. So, like I said, I've done some of the courses with the London School of Childcare Studies, and then I saw the Sleep Practitioner one, which I thought, well, that could blend in really nicely with what I do. So, yeah, my passion, and also I'm very passionate about, because obviously working with parents over the years, I've heard their, nightmare sleep stories. So I've helped parents for like 30 years get their children to sleep during the day, but that's how I do it during the day. So I wanted to also be able to help them through the nights and things like that.
It's quite a nice link, actually, isn't it, with your child leading on to your sleep practitioner. And also, I know you sort of made the changes a little bit later on in your career. And would you recommend that? Can you give any advice to people? Because I think sometimes I myself come from a teaching background, and I stayed in teaching for way longer than probably I should have done. And it's having that confidence, isn't it, to make that leap. So can you give anybody any recommendations or advice on that?
I think, look around for what's out there, and hone in on your interests, the things that are really important to you, and the things that you're really good at. Within the childminding, you wear many different hats. There's many different things that you do. So just find what you're really good at. Find something that really interests you. At the end of the day, this is your career, so you need to be doing something that you love and stimulates you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I can very proudly say that you have received 3 Ofsted ratings of outstanding, which, I'm childminding now, and that is like what we all aim to achieve, isn't it? So while we've got you here, an outstanding childminder, we thought we must ask you any tips for obviously achieving outstanding. A lot of people ask me, what's the difference between a good Ofsted inspection and an outstanding Ofsted inspection? I appreciate Ofsted obviously changes and evolves all the time for what they're looking for, but is there anything that you felt in your practice led you to that outstanding rating?
I'd say certainly for my last one, it was probably the best Ofsted inspection I've had, where you do the learning walk through your house. And so what my biggest tip is to be yourself. Don't do anything differently. You're selling yourself, you're showcasing yourself, put yourself, out there. And also be, how you interact with the children while the Ofsted inspector is there is very important. If you do things differently and act differently, children are really going to pick up on that. So include them in it. And also, be child-centric. I'm there for the children, and the Ofsted inspector is observing me. So I've just carried on with what I would normally do and answered questions and spoke to the children how I'd normally speak to them. And she was literally sat watching and joining in by the end of it all, which was really nice.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I think we sometimes feel we need to put on an act, don't we, when we're being observed. But like you say, the children will pick up on that. So just carry on with your normal practice. Yeah, that's really helpful. Now, something that I absolutely loved reading about you is that you obviously completed your Open University course in early years while you were still childminding. So you're still working at the same time. So just if you could explain to us a little bit what it was like studying and working, and again, any tips and advice, because a lot of our students do already come from a workplace, so they're doing this alongside their working day. So anything that words of advice you can give to them.
Okay, so I condensed my working week into 40 hours over 4 days, and I took Friday, Saturday and Sundays for 7 years to study part-time, which, when I say it now, that was like an incredible chunk of my time. But, when I finished the assignments and handed in, I'd give myself a weekend away just to, before I started again. I think you have to be very organized. And I'm really lucky that I'm very disciplined, very organized person. I love doing all the work on the computer. I love all that formatting. I find that really helpful. And so I was able to be very focused, but also know your learning style, know how you learn. So I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I have to get up and move around, or I doodle, or I'm always fidgeting. I, do things. So my house on a Friday would be spotless for 7 years because I would get up and think about things. But you have to have boundaries. You have to set boundaries with your family as well, because, they have to know that this is what you're doing, and you have a finite amount of time, and just plan and be organized and disciplined and set small achievable targets for it.
Yeah, I think that's important as well, isn't it? I think we're all guilty of putting like numerous targets on our to-do list for the day when it's not realistic, and then you feel awful at the end of the day when you haven't achieved them. So yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's really important. So we said obviously you childminded for 29 years, I believe, and then you now have opened Sleeping Bunnies, which is a sleep consultancy to help, as you mentioned, parents sleeping at night. I've actually not long ago spoke to another childminder who has also gone on to sleep consultancy and combined the businesses. So would you recommend that? Do you think it's a good idea to have sort of that you feel like the sleep consultancy and the childminding work really well together?
I think they blend perfectly together because in one aspect you have a captive audience because you've already got parents, and then that word of mouth. Most of my clients have come from word of mouth, from local nurseries and from local Facebook pages. So and I have that balance of still working with the children, but also then doing some in-depth work with parents, which I love. I find that I really love doing that aspect and trying to help parents and sort of find a way through what's going on.
Yeah. I often
And
get asked actually about the marketing side of things, and people say to me, do I need this, websites and social media? And it's funny you mentioned word of mouth, because that is generally in our sort of realm where a lot of people will find us, won't they? When I childmind, I'm walking with my children on the school playground, so people see me, and that's how it happens. So it's not to be undervalued, is it?
No, and also I might be in the park with my minded children, and there's parents there, and then we get to chatting, and then they start talking, and then I give them my business card. I've always got my business cards, either childminding business card or my sleep consultancy business card. So or one, I'm thinking about getting it printed on both sides.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah. With you doing the two different businesses together, can you just give us a quick rundown of what your working week entails? So sort of how many hours and days that you work for your childminding and your sleep consultancy?
Okay, so I'm now working 3 days a week, 33 hours a week as a childminder, Monday to Wednesday. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday is taken up with my sleep consultancy. And those are the days I do my admin, my adverts, my paperwork, my like my self-employed aspect of it, and keeping everything up together, and reading, and writing articles, and all those business aspect sorts of things. And then I like to do home consultations as well. So a lot of, because they're local parents, I get to go to the home and visit them as well, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And also I tend to go, well over my allotted hour-long consultation. I'm a bit, so I like chatting. I mean, I'd done one for 2 hours the other day, and the time just flew past, but I really enjoyed myself, and the parents, got a lot from it. So that was really nice.
If you're enjoying it. One of the questions, Wendy, that I had when I recently did a lesson with some sleep consultants was, with your initial consultation, do you charge for that, or do you offer it free, or how does that work? Because I think that would be helpful.
I do the 15-minute free consultation, which very often runs into sort of half an hour or more. And but also what I've learned is that 15-minute consultation, I will probably glean a whole lot of information that I then don't end up sending out, like the questionnaire, because I've already asked so many questions. And then I say, like, when I do the hour-long consultation, I always say to parents, I'm going to do like hundreds of questions and ask you lots of things so I can gain as much information from you as possible. So so I do 15 minutes free, which often goes longer, and then an hour consultation.
Brilliant, thank you, because I think that'll help the students a lot. Obviously, you've launched your Sleeping Bunnies business a little bit later on in life. Have there been any challenges to that, or would you recommend that, and any strengths that you can recommend?
It's been a huge learning curve, because I'm not overly tech savvy, but I learn. And also my kids are left home, so I've got no one here to help me now when I get stuck. So I'm having to learn all these things, which is, great skills to be learning. So that's really good. I'm also I'm learning constantly about sleep as well. I'm reading lots. I'm watching I listen to podcasts. I watch webinars. So I'm still learning. I'm still in the infancy of my sleep consultation practice, whereas I'm probably coming to the end of my childminding. I'm just in the infancy of this. So I'm learning so much about it, which I find totally fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it, as well? There's always new trends and new research and things, isn't there? So it's keeping abreast of that when you do start in these careers as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Obviously, you've spent the whole of your career working in childcare, so it's something that you're very passionate about. I am the same. I've worked all of my career with children, and I think it's absolutely amazing. I would recommend it. But why should others consider it? What has made it such a perfect fit for you?
I think being self-employed is a big bonus, because it means you choose your hours, you choose when you work, you set your own fees, you choose your holidays, you choose who you work with, because as a childminder, we all have different families and setups. I started when my children were younger. They've all left home. I have the free run of the house now, if you like. So even my setting has changed. I have an extra room, so I have a playroom now that the children can go into, whereas it was a bedroom before. So that's changed. So it's moved and progressed with me as my family have got older. You have autonomy in your work. You decide what to do, where to go, on a day-to-day basis. So that really appeals to me as well. I'm my own boss, you know. I really love that element of it.
Yeah.
Although the pitfalls are obviously there's no sickness pay.
No, this is true. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but no, yeah, it is a great place to be, isn't it, when you're your own boss? So you can
Yes,
choose
absolutely.
the reason.
Yeah.
Anything that you know now, after all of your years of experience, that you wish you knew at the beginning and you could share with us?
I used to be really shy when I moved to London, and lacked a lot of confidence. So I wasn't so good with the contract side, the business side, selling myself, all of that. And I've developed that so much better now. I'm very, you know, I know my worth, I know my value. These are my fees. This is what I offer. You know, you know, money up front. So there's, and I say to parents when I interview them as much as they're interviewing me as well. That's a really big point when you do the interview process. Just think that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, because it has to be the right fit for your family and for the other children who you're caring for. But the money aspect, so get the money sorted out. And I say to them, once we sorted the money out and the direct debit and the money goes in beginning of every month, I'm not going to talk to you again about money until we do our next contract. And that's a really big thing that I've learned.
Yeah, I think sometimes because we're so keen to help people, aren't we? We forget those aspects. Even as a childminder, you know, it's making sure you're paid up front, and you have to remind yourself at times that it is a business, isn't it? You do need it to be viable and to work. So those things are really important. You've mentioned, obviously, you've started Bunnies Consultancy. And what are your plans for the future? What was your reason for launching this consultancy? Because I do know, and I think it's a lovely reason. So you can share it with everybody else.
Well, some of my plans are to master doing videos and things like that, and to do more training around the advertising and computer aspect of it. So I want to sort of, you know, try to build that up. I've got to learn that. So I've got to go and do some courses. My children all live around the world, and my grandchildren live around the world. And eventually, my husband had retrained as well. And eventually we want to be working remotely and traveling the world. For us, because we never had gap years, we didn't do any of that, and so we want to travel and visit, you know, our grandchildren, and go and enjoy ourselves and work.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
It.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely wonderful, and I love the way that you have sort of made your careers all fit around that time in your life that is perfect for you.
Yes.
One thing what I spoke to you before we came on live, which I thought is worth mentioning, is we talked about Ofsted. And when we hear about Ofsted, and obviously it's in the press a lot at the minute, it's quite a scary thing, isn't it? We get worried when we think they're going to come and what they're going to see. But I was talking about how I'd had a pre-registration visit, because I've trained as a childminder, and I found the whole thing really, really lovely. The childminder was friendly. I felt like she was there to support me and not to trip me up. And you've said the same about your recent inspection. I just thought it was worth adding that on, because I know it is something that a lot of students and a lot of people starting childcare settings worry about. So you felt the same, didn't you, Wendy?
I did. This last Ofsted inspection was probably the best I've ever had. And the inspector was absolutely lovely. She blended in perfectly while the children were here, and and actually joined in with all our activities. And I have really good talkers who are very advanced in their language development. And, you know, she mentioned that the way I interacted with the children, because, you know, I'm here for them. So her role is to observe me. So I just carried on doing what I do. Of course, I was nervous, but I just thought, and also I'm at the point where I thought, you know, this is my last inspection probably. So I'm just going to go for it and just be myself and just relax, and what will be. And it was. So I'm very grateful for that.
It's good having that positive mindset, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So we have, Wendy, gone through all the questions that were submitted by our students prior to today. But if anybody watching has got any questions or anything they want to answer, if you pop it in the chat, I think we have just got one pop up now. So this is interesting. So Lindsay, thank you. She's put, just to note that Ofsted is called Care Commission in Scotland, in case other Scots on here are watching. So thank you for that, Lindsay. So that is Care Commission. And anybody else has got anything else you want to ask or answer? So Charlotte has said, I may not be able to do the sleep practitioner course until 2024. does Wendy have any recommendations of what experience, research or networking I could be doing in the meantime so I can start my new career on a positive note? Great question.
Okay, sorry, who was that? That was...
So that is from Charlotte.
Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte. I would read, I mean, there's a plethora of books out there, and there's lots of webinars, and there's lots of podcasts. So I would, you know, delve into all of those. I would really look into the physiology of sleep, because I find that absolutely fascinating. And I think just keep your hand in, just, you know, keeping up to date with all the relevant information, because there's always something new that's coming on. And maybe do some short courses around things. I mean, there's lots of courses available. There's lots of freebie courses available as well. So have a look and see what's available to keep your hand in while you're waiting to start.
Thank you. Thanks, Wendy. Natalia has put, could you please advise us on any other course that you feel really helped you a lot? I think you mentioned that, and maybe a good book too.
I loved Matt Walker's book. That was a great book, and I've just got downloaded his podcast with Dr. Craig Caponari, I think. So I'm waiting to find the time to sit and listen to those, because I do find I like his element of talking about sleep, but also although it's sleep consultancy with early years, often you're helping the adults, you're helping the parents as well. So I often give lots of tips for them as well. And also another area I'm thinking of going into is around menopause, because I was an insomniac for 3 years. I slept for 1 hour a night, and I've, you know, doing this course has helped me so much. And I know there's lots of parents, I'm sure there's lots of parents doing this course as well, and it will be invaluable to them.
Yeah, let me know, Wendy. If you're up and running with the menopause advice, I'm all for it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Like you say, it does, and it is all about, I think when we go into this, we concentrate on the baby and the child, but you're right, you are looking after the whole family, aren't you? And particularly with childminding, I've become a big part of their families as well, and they have ours. So yeah, it really is caring for the whole package, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So Alina says, how did you know this is what you wanted to do your whole life? I love kids, and I have been working with kids for almost 6 years now. I get lots of satisfaction from it, but often when I encounter difficult children, I feel overwhelmed by the idea of having my own. How did you manage to divine the focus of other kids with your own?
So, like I said, I had children really young, and so I wanted to do something around them and helping my younger son particularly. And then with moving to London, I think at first I did some after school kids when my son, we moved to London when he was 4, and he found that intolerable. He really hated it. He couldn't bear the other children who were maybe slightly older coming in and sharing his toys and borrowing his toys. And it's not to say it's not being without his difficulties. He especially found it hard with me talking to other people's children. Like if we go away on holiday, I'm very child-centric, so all children gravitate to me, and he used to find that really difficult. But other people's children, yeah, behavior, you have to have clear boundaries with behavior, and learn some co-regulation. I did a co-regulation course about self-regulating. I think it was with the London School as well. And that was invaluable, and I put that into my practice now as well. So find lots of different coping techniques and strategies, and share them with the parents as well, because, you know, that helps them, because you can guarantee they're probably having the problems as well.
Brilliant, thank you. We have got one from Amy, who says, what was the toughest baby stroke child you had to help with sleep? And on this, again, as I said, I recently did a sleep practitioner course with some of the students, and they are worried, I think, and it's natural to think if they have a nightmare baby, shall we say, and they're not sure, and the advice isn't working and the parents are still getting frustrated, how you would recommend dealing with that?
I've just finished a couple of weeks ago with clients. So I tend to do like a very calm strategies. And the parents all, yes, that's how we want to do it. And they found it very, very challenging. But in the end, they went back to a sleep care practitioner and notes they'd used before and done the cry out method. And I said to them, at what point with our working should I have maybe muted a slightly, I don't know, harder, for want of a better word, or a slightly more challenging technique, because you wanted it to be, you know, really soft and gentle with no crying. And they said that, you know, perhaps you could have just mentioned there are these other techniques. They said, but we just got to the point where we just couldn't think anymore. And we were like, so we just sort of done the cry out, and over 3 nights it worked. But I always say to parents when I do the consultations, the cry out is likely to be the fastest. It's likely to work the quickest, but obviously most parents don't want to do any form of any crying. I don't condone the cry out per se, but as you know, to leaving them to crying for a little bit, you know, a lot of parents don't want to go anywhere near that. As soon as they hear those connotations, they don't want to know. So, you know, all nice and calm, but yeah, they needed a short, sharp technique which worked for them, which, you know, is great because, you know, they're sleeping again, so that's great, and their little one's sleeping.
Brilliant, thank you, because I think that'll be really, really helpful. Right, my voice is going already. So Lindsay says, how many clients do you take on at one time? How do you manage your time and prioritise? And also, how do you set boundaries to parents that want to contact you all the time and ask questions at 3 a.m. in the morning?
I've not had anyone asking questions at 3 a.m. in the morning, thankfully. I think I was a little naive when I started because I thought it would flood in. I thought the clients would flood in and I'd be overwhelmed, but it's actually been a slow trickle, which is really good during my first year because it's meant I've been able to sort of build up the confidence. And you know, I'd set Thursday and Fridays to do the consultations, and then I write up over the weekends. I do have boundaries that I say that, like, I'm available to answer between 8 and I think it's 9 at night, because I appreciate parents are putting children to bed, and I don't have any children of my own. I only have my husband here, so I don't have any constraints like that, if you like.
Yeah, I do think it's important to have boundaries, isn't it? And when we do the employability part of the sleep practitioner program, we do talk about that and how there's nothing stopping you having a pop-up on your social media to let them know that you will be back with them and answer their question as soon as possible in your working hours. And it's quite reassuring still for them because they've got the message back and they know that you've received it. But yeah, you shouldn't be answering messages at 3 o'clock in the morning, should you really?
No. And also I think that's it. You know, if you set clear boundaries, you say the times you're available. I go slightly over in when I do a week's package, that I tend to still be texting like the you know, the end of the second week and then the end of the third week, because sometimes these things take time to embed. So I still want to know, you know, 3 weeks on how it's going. And I probably don't ask for references until we've got to the end of say a 3-week period, even though I've only done a 1-week package. I still want to check in and see how they're doing, and I still, you know, answer questions that they may have.
Yeah.
But that's my way of working. That's probably not clear enough boundaries, but I am clear within the time, you know, the times during the day. It suits me.
Yeah.
And I like that flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah, it suits you. It's your business, your rules, isn't it? But yeah, I think those are really important. And we've just had another one pop up, so I'll just read that out from Lindsay. I have a 5-month-old. I plan to start this up when on maternity leave and then run it side by side with my job when I go back part-time. Do you think this is manageable, and what advice would you give me to ensure my family get my time and commitment as well as the business?
I do think it's manageable, yes. And I think to be very clear with your time, if you probably know how you work best, so pick the times when you know you work best. You know, it may be in the evenings, it may be in the mornings, and allow yourself some flexibility within that. But also with the clients, let them know that how what you're, you know, I describe what is going on in my life, so people know, I may be traveling. So when I'm traveling, I go to Holland every 4 or 5 weeks. I go to the Czech Republic every 4 or 5 weeks to meet my children, to go and see my children and grandchildren. So I tell clients, I'm away, but I'm available. I can answer your questions. So please don't be worried about, texting me and asking questions. So have some flexibility, but also, if you want to take Saturday and Sundays off, make it clear that that's what you do.
Yeah. Thank you, Wendy. Right, I'll have a quick look. Oh, Lindsay says thank you, and so does Eleanor. So thank you, ladies. And I'll just wait another minute just to see if anybody else pops any questions on. How many sleep clients do you have at one time, Wendy?
I think the most I've had is 3 at any one time. I don't want this to be like taking over my time as well. So I'm easing, because I know I have a long-term focus. So, I have my childminding, that's my fixed income, that's the money that allows me to travel and have my lifestyle. But also, I am away every 4 or 5 weeks visiting my family. So I want that balance. So, 3 or 4 clients is perfect for me at the moment. Obviously, as I get more tech savvy and, develop more in that area, then I will take on more clients. But at the moment, I'm quite happy. I'm learning still, it's in its infancy. So I'm still learning my trade, if you like.
And again, that's another joy of owning your own business, isn't it? So it can be as big or as small as you need it to be. It works for you and your family, which is what makes it so great.
Absolutely.
I don't think we've had any more questions come through. I'll just check on the question and answers. No, we've already had that. Oh, we've just had one from Natalia. Let's pop up. Do you feel families have changed since you started to now? I feel there is a lot of information out there and sometimes they don't let us do our job.
As a childminder, I've been really lucky that in the parents, I think the process of interviewing, the process of getting past the telephone call and into my home, I'm very switched on to gauging, if I'm compatible with someone during those first, couple of phone calls before I interview them. And yeah, parents have changed. I work with a lot of parents who come from overseas, who have no family around. So, it is like, I am like a support system, if you like, in that respect. And it's very difficult for families who have no family support around. My own children experience it now as well. So you do become quite, valuable in that respect with them. And I think it's great that parents have more information. I think you need to be clear in your boundaries with parents and make sure, your policies and procedures. And so it's all written. So, you give it to them, especially around behaviour. That's a really important policy. And to know if you cut and paste from somewhere like Pacey or Morton Michael, make sure you own your policies, make sure you know your policies, and make sure you're confident in your policies.
Yeah, I think the policies are really important, aren't they? They're like that contract between you and the parent. And again, sometimes when we're so excited about starting these new businesses and we come from a background where we do love helping people, you can easily forget those things, but they are vitally important.
Yeah.
We've got a question that says, hi, Wendy, I've just completed the sleep practitioner program. Do you advise building on experience for some time before charging for this? I do get asked this a lot, actually, when I'm doing the sleep course. So yeah, basically, is it worth gaining experience and then charging, or charging from the outset?
No, I definitely done some freebies. First of all, I found 3 or 4 clients and done freebies. So yeah, and then in exchange for a reference. And I'm quite often now, when I do my 15-minute consultation, I might give some tips, and then they may say, oh, fine, that's great. And then they don't need any more help, in which case I will then go back to them and ask for a reference as well, just so people know, how I've interacted with them, things like that. But yeah, I did freebies at the beginning to get some my experience, to hone my skill and to hone my, my plans. Every plan I do is, I learn something different with every plan I write, which I think is, I love writing plans. I love the presentation. I love all that aspect. I love all the information I put in. So I really enjoy that element, and I'm learning constantly with that.
Yeah. And like you say, in exchange for a testimonial, that's one thing that you don't have when you start a business.
Yeah.
So although you're still doing the session for free, you're getting something exceptionally valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's invaluable.
Yeah. So Lindsay said, I would like to hold a physical group session for parents as a drop-in once in a while. Do you think the consultancy content would adapt and work well with this setting?
I think it would actually, because, you know, then parents could share their experiences, because often I talk to parents and they're like, oh, you know, I thought I was the only one, or, you know, I don't want to mention this to my friends because their babies all sleep perfectly, and so, you know, I feel like I'm a failure. So if you get parents together who, you know, have similar, you know, experiences, it could really help them. You know, one of the things of coming out of COVID is, you know, young parents, new parents didn't have those support mechanisms in place. So I think that would absolutely work.
Yeah, I think it would be brilliant as well.
Yeah.
So, great idea. So Lindsay asks, what insurance do you have for the likes of something happening to a child when being advised by your sleep techniques? And do parents want to hold you liable? And do you have to be registered with Ofsted, or is this just for childminding?
Ofsted is just for childminding. I have Morton Michael. My insurance is with Morton Michael, my public liability. And I'm registered with the ICO because I'm keeping people's data as well. So you have to make sure you have that as well. Yeah, but Morton Michael do a very good insurance. But I'm registered with Pacey for childminding.
Yeah, I was just about to say, we've actually done another one of these Meet the Experts with the ladies who run Morton Michelle Insurance. So if any of you watching want to find that, I'm sure we can direct you to it. And they answered lots and lots of questions from both childminders to sleep practitioners to nannies. And they are a very good insurance provider, and Pacey, you also mentioned, is more for the childminding aspect, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's definitely something to consider. And they go through, in the interview with them, they do talk about its public liability and things like that. So they talk through all the terminology. So it's worth definitely looking up that interview. It's on our Facebook, it's on our YouTube. And if you are struggling and you just message one of us via one of our social medias, we'll make sure we send you the link to it if you're struggling to find it. So I just checked, we've got some of the question answers. Do you need insurance when just starting up and doing for free?
Yes, yeah. I would. Definitely. I would definitely, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just going to double check, guys. I think that's all of them that have come through. Lots of people saying thank you. So that's important to feedback to Wendy too.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that's them all. If you do come off here and you do have any other questions, again, we're always available via our social media, or email us, and I can feed them back to Wendy and let you know as well. So I think that is all of them. So on that note, thank you ever so much, Wendy. You've answered tons of...
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully it's been really informative. And Natalia says, thank you so much for all your help. So it's important you give that feedback too. Charlotte says, really useful. Thanks so much. And Lindsay says, thank you. So let you know you've got those comments as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. And good luck to all of you out there.
Yeah, it's a great, working with children. It is a great career, isn't it? I've done it.
It's the best. It's the best. And you're in a very privileged position looking after somebody else's pride and joy. Yeah. Yes, it's the best.
Exactly. Yes, thank you. Right, I'll say goodbye then on that note. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We really do appreciate it, and we hope you found it super helpful this morning. So take care everyone and have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Wendy.
Bye. Bye. Thank you. Bye.